During the post-war period, abstract painting was often seen as the logical development for art. Yet figurative painters have not simply rested on tradition, they have produced challenging images of the human condition in a changing world. Origins and influences. The London-based American artist, R.B. Kitaj, coined the phrase, School of London, in 1976 for a generation of British figurative painters, comprising Kitaj himself, Francis Bacon, Lucian Freud, Leon Kossoff, Frank Auerbach, and Michael Andrews. This school was held together by friendship, rather than stylistic similarities. The painter David Bomberg was an important influence on the group. After the war, he taught at Borough Polytechnic in South London, where his students included Auerbach and Kossoff. Bomberg stressed the sense of touch as well as sight. Subject matter. The 6 artists mainly painted the human figure and its environment, and often sat for one another. Bacon's portrait of Freud and Freud's painting of Auerbach are now considered significant works. These artists all derive strength from the old masters. The knowing spectator can see echoes of Van Eyck, Ingres, and Watteau in the work of Freud. Kossoff and Auerbach constantly returned to London's National Gallery to make drawings after their favorites such as Titian and Poussin. After 1945, the U.S. also produced realist figurative painters, although the critics often ignored them in favor of abstract expressionists and minimal, pop, and conceptual artists. Stylistically, they were disparate. Pearlstein and Katz both produced unsentimental figure studies, while Andrew Wyeth made more emotional paintings. The Life Room, Norwich School of Art, John Winnicott, 1977–80. One of Britain's leading portraitists and figure painters, Winnicott usually shows his figures in context, depicting their environment in perfect proportion and perspective. Figurative painting. Francis Bacon, 1984. B. Dublin, 1909. D. Madrid, 1992. Francis Bacon was the most celebrated British painter of the 20th century. He produced dramatic paintings focused on the figure, which he distorted to express isolation, brutality, and terror. He first gained notoriety in 1945, when he exhibited 3 studies for figures at the base of a crucifixion, a horrific triptych depicting half-animal, half-human creatures, writhing in anguish. Most of Bacon's paintings, even his portraits, were based on photographs. The photograph was a starting point, then a fervid imagination and a skilled oil technique took over. Bacon smeared and smudged the paint so that his subjects were often transformed nightmarish, ill-formed, slug-like creatures. Many of Bacon's figures seem to have their faces turned inside out, and many are isolated, trapped by geometric or cage-like constructions. Lifeline. 1914 Bacon's family moved from Dublin to London. 1928 starts work as an interior decorator in London. 1949 starts Screaming Popes series, nightmarish versions of Velasquez's famous portrait of Pope Innocent X. 1954 represents the Venice Biennale. 1962–63 retrospectives at the Tate Gallery, London and Guggenheim. New York. 1971 retrospective at the Grand Palais in Paris. 3 studies for a Crucifixion. Bacon painted many idiosyncratic versions of the Crucifixion. Here, he uses the triptych format associated with Renaissance altarpieces. By depicting butchered bodies, misshapen figures, and spattered blood, Bacon seems to be subverting the format to show the evils of man, rather than the virtues of Christ. 1962, Oil on Canvas, 198 by 45 centimeters, Guggenheim, New York, U.S. Closer look. Dark shadow paintings of the Crucifixion often had saints at the foot of the cross. Here, there is a dark, mysterious shadow before the Crucifixion, in the right panel. It suggests, perhaps, that there is no salvation, just death. Study for bullfight. No one. This is one of 3 paintings Bacon made of toreadors grappling with bulls. Perhaps Bacon is painting his own struggle with his demons. He drank, gambled, and had to deal with society's attitude to his homosexuality. The bold, hot palette is suggestive of Spanish light and landscape, but also suggests passionate struggle. 1969, Oil on Canvas, 198 by 148 centimeters, private collection. Study after Velasquez portrait of Pope Innocent X. Francis Bacon 1953, oil on canvas, 153 by 118 centimeters, Des Moines Arts Center, U.S. Closer look. Study after Velasquez portrait of Pope Innocent X. Francis Bacon. Bacon's screaming Pope, seething with anger and pain, is one of the greatest and most troubling British paintings. It is an explicit reworking of Diego Velázquez's 1650 painting of Pope Innocent X. Bacon's papal portrait is an attempt to reinvent Velázquez's painting in a way that would be valid for the mid-20th century. The result is a devastating depiction of existential angst and an apparent rejection of the power of faith in the modern world. Story. Bacon started painting interpretations of Velasquez's portrait of Pope Innocent X in 1951, and over the next 14 years he returned to the same subject again and again, creating around 50 paintings. He acquired a large collection of books, catalogs, and postcards with reproductions of the portrait. Despite spending 3 months in Rome in 1954, he apparently never saw the original painting. Throughout his career, Bacon made religious paintings. It was as if he saw it as his mission to subvert the hierarchical order and spiritual authority embodied in traditional religious painting. Clenched hand in Velasquez's portrait, the Pope comfortably rests his arms on the chair, reflecting his confident, composed bearing. In Bacon's picture, the Pope's arms are tense, and the hands grip the chair in panic and desperation. Mouth and eyes, the face is an image of terror. The mouth is a black hole, and blood seems to drip from an eye. Nothing is defined. The glasses are created with dabs of white paint, while the lips and flesh tones are suggested with touches of local color. Composition. The composition is full of dynamic diagonals that seem to underline the Pope's rage. In the lower half of the painting, bold yellow diagonals of the throne are prominent. In the upper half, 2 diagonals formed by the arms and sloping shoulders lead us to the screaming head. The dynamism of the composition is echoed by the aggressive brushwork. Golden throne rather than sitting on a throne, Bacon's Pope seems to be imprisoned in a cage-like structure. Indeed, it almost looks as if he is manacled to an electric chair, and is being jolted into life for the last time. Technique. The rage of the Pope is reflected in Bacon's bold and energetic application of paint. The paint is smeared and spattered onto the canvas. The brushstrokes are free and emphatic. The curved white brushstrokes used to render the white tunic and the brown vertical brushstrokes in the background are particularly vigorous. Like the subject, they scream out at the viewer. Bacon seems to have been engaged in a passionate, emotional struggle not dissimilar, perhaps, to the one he depicted. Transparency. Dry brushwork lets underlying layers of paint shows through. The technique is known as scumbling and creates broken color effects. While Velasquez's Pope is a solidly modeled, flesh and blood person, Bacon's becomes a ghostly apparition. Colors, the yellow and purple, immediately catch the eye. As complementary colors, they come alive when used next to each other. The drama is enhanced by the strong contrast between the white of the Pope's smock and the dark background. Influences. Velasquez and Battleship Potemkin. In Velasquez's portrait, Pope Innocent X looks commanding and composed, a fitting portrayal of a man renowned for his vigor and iron grip. Bacon's Pope is the exact opposite, unhinged and tyrannical, terrifying and terrified. The artist seems to want to undermine the traditional conception of him. Bacon often used images from films. One that obsessed him was the nursemaid's scream in Battleship Potemkin, 1925, where the woman's open mouth forms in zero. Pope Innocent X. Diego Velázquez, 1650. While Velázquez's Pope exudes power, Bacon's Pope seems possessed with impotent anger. Velázquez portrays the Pope's public image, whereas Bacon seems to delve into his Pope's private psychosis.